All right, welcome everyone to Tuesday Talks. What a great song. I love all the music from Frank Sinatra. I even like Michael Bublé, to be honest with you. Really enjoyed all that music in the background. Welcome everyone to Tuesday Talks, as I just said. For those of you that are joining us for the very first time, we have a great program today. We've got a guy by the name of Chris Payne. We'll tell you more about him in just a moment, but we've got a lot of other things that we want to talk to you about. So we started this program called Tuesday Talks about 5 months ago during COVID-19, or right before as COVID-19 started to come out. And so what had happened is for the last 25 years, we've actually been doing, I don't know, what do you want to call it, training, leadership development, mindset training, all that kind of stuff for the last 25 years. And so with COVID-19, we couldn't do it in our office. Like we literally got together inside our office and we would do all this kind of training for an hour and a half or so. And then with COVID, we just couldn't do it. So we had to really adapt to the times and we started this thing called Tuesday Talks. And so now here we are. We appreciate all of you joining us. We can't tell you how excited we are. We really are excited that you want to know more about what this is all about. You may have heard from somebody. We've been doing this thing. People have been learning a lot. And so we hope that today you have some good takeaways. So let me go ahead and share with you my PowerPoint here real quickly. So here's the thing. I would love to get together with you one-on-one via a Zoom. I mean, like face-to-face would have been great. But I wanted you to get with the person who invited you here today and say, hey, I want to talk to John. Like number 3, I want to talk to him directly. Or number 2, I want to know how money works. I'd like to know how to make money with my money. And number 3 is I want to get more details about starting a business and having a little side income, right? Because some of you could definitely use some additional cash flow right now. So I want you to know that I've got a guest speaker here, and I want you to follow him on Instagram. But this guy's got an amazing story. It's so inspiring that, you know, when he was growing up, just so you know, he was a former musician, right? I mean, can you imagine going from a musician where the certain part of your brain, more the artistic guy, he was a restaurant manager, and then from there, guess what? He finds the love of his life, he gets married to his wife, Sunny, and then gets into the financial industry. You guys heard I just said financial industry, right? He's been in this industry for about 7 years, and during those 7 years now, guess what? He's opened up offices. Well, he opened up after in his second year, he opened up his own office, but now he's working in almost all 50 states. He's in 30 states now. I know he's probably going to go into all 50 states pretty soon. And I want you to know the guy's made millions of dollars. He's building leaders, and he's crushing it during a time of a crisis, during a pandemic. And I was talking to him the other day, and I said, how you doing, Chris? And he says, John, it's like unbelievable what's happening in our business right now. He's promoting more leaders, he's making more money, he's helping more families, and he's making a difference in people's lives. And I thought, what better person to have on this webinar to show you what maybe you should duplicate what he's doing right now. So without any further ado, I'd like to bring on Chris Payne, the one and only. What's up, Chris?
Hey, John, how are you? Can you hear
Man,
me?
I don't know if I could be doing any better, but I'll tell you what, great to have you here today on our show. You're looking good. Hope your wife is doing amazing. And,
Yeah.
you know, Chris, here's what I normally would get people on my show, and then I have to lead them through I got to ask them questions and all that kind of stuff. But you're obviously not a stranger to this space. You've spoken in front of tens of thousands of people. So what I want to do is just kind of turn this over to you, and let you just kind of do your thing, my man. Like, everybody's anxious to hear from the man himself. So go ahead and take over, brother.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on your program. You know, I'm a big fan of John. We had a chance to cross paths almost 7 years ago, and as a friend, as a mentor, as a coach, as someone who I could confide in, and someone who just honestly felt like he had mine and my family's best interests in place. And that's big. We need more people like that in the world. We need to be able to connect with more people like that. So, so first and foremost, you and Arlene, you've opened up your house to us, and we just appreciate you and all you do. And so, so awesome. So I just want to talk to you guys a little bit today, and maybe give you a little bit about my background, at least so you kind of know a little bit about what it is that we're doing here. And we're in business. I'm a serial entrepreneur. I'm sure we have some serial entrepreneurs on the call as well. And so when I talked to Johnny, he asked maybe about, a couple things that have been working for us in this time, which I found aren't just things that work in this time. They're just kind of things that have stood the test of time. Quite honestly, none of the things that I came up with on my own, I learned from somebody else. And so I'll give you guys just a little bit of a background history of me, and then I'll just kind of jump into some things that hopefully can be useful for you guys, and maybe you can put into place. So I actually have been working in the financial industry for about 7 years. Definitely not my background. I played music professionally for 10 years. I put a band together in college and had a chance to tour around the country. That's what I wanted to do. I was passionate about it. Always wanted to work for myself. So it's been going into the 24th year of trying to have some business, some kind of control over my lifestyle, because I started in about 1996. And so I had a chance to do that. Things changed in the industry. We changed. We made more money on the road. So we had to switch. I had to get a job, right? It's not really what I wanted to do, but I had to do it, right? And so I started bartending. It was easy to work in the bar. I was always used to playing into the bars and clubs. And as time went on, we spent less time on the road, more time in the restaurant. And then I became a restaurant manager. And then boom, 10 years later, I was still a restaurant manager. And it was so crazy. I mean, I enjoyed working with people. I worked in a kind of a mom and pop wine bar, and just great people I work with. But that's not what I had in mind in life. I always understood that money was supposed to make money. I didn't know where to do it. So I put a plan together. We're in Southern California. We're going to get into real estate, because that's what people do in California. They get into real estate. And it was 2005. Right? Not the best time to be in real estate, but thankfully I had a mentor who was like a father figure who kept us out of real estate in 2005, got us into real estate in 2009. Man, we dodged a bullet, through no fault of my own, through no doing of my own, except for I got around people and I listened. And that's actually kind of getting into one of the first points, is that you got to be around people who know more about what you're doing than you do. And the other things, you got to listen to them. And so, but during the time, we bought some properties, sold some properties, and, I've invested in restaurants. I've never owned one. And I was actually going to buy a restaurant 7 years ago. It's some of the things that I knew, and I didn't know much about it as I was going through it, but I got on other people who are very successful restaurateurs. And I guess I've been a fairly risky investor from that side. But I never really looked at it like that, because I always invested in people. If I trusted them, and there was a trust there, and I saw that they actually had a record. I actually owned a racehorse for a little while. I don't know anything about the horse racing industry. I've never been to the track until I owned a horse, and I'm allergic to horses, right? But I was around somebody who was very knowledgeable about it, and it made sense. And we didn't make money on everything that we did by any means, but we made more money than we lost. And when we didn't make it, I knew it wasn't because somebody tried to give me the short end of the stick. We lost, I guess you could say, together. And so, I was going to buy a restaurant, and I literally thank God every day that I didn't. And there might be some people who are restaurant owners on the call or in the hospitality industry. And I just want to let you guys know, man, my heart goes out to you, because, we might have bought a restaurant 7 years ago. I might have just lost it last month. I know that we are humans. We will still eat. Restaurants will come back, but there is a storm that you guys are experiencing that no one could have guessed. And so my heart goes out to you guys. So I got introduced to this industry. I wasn't interested in working there, but I was interested in the concepts. Some of the things that John talked about. I said, look, if I own a restaurant and actually start making some real money, I need to know what to do with it, right? And so that's kind of where I started. And then I found that I actually fell in love with what it is that we do, not just about working in the financial industry, but I feel like I'm a student of business, and I was really looking for business to really have. I watched my dad work 43 years. He's the main focus of my I guess my passion, the reason why I do the things that I do, obviously with my wife too. I made a promise to her when I put the ring on her finger, and my goal is to make good on that. But my dad gave his company 43 years. He got a grandfather clock, he got a pension, but those days are gone. right? Those days are definitely just not so numerous. You know, I know that most people work, you know, an average of 3 to 5 years for every place that they are employed. So, but I fell in love with this. I got help financially at first, and then, you know, once I came on board, the rest is history. So, so I want to just kind of jump into a couple of things. I have a PowerPoint that I'm going to share, and just a couple of pieces of some things that have been helpful for me, just kind of in business in general. So I'm going to, give me just 1 second. Let's see here. If I can share my screen, let's do that. Let's do that. It's so funny. I think everybody has become more technically savvy, even if they weren't technically savvy. So let's see if I can, there we go. So let me shrink this down a little bit. So talk about 4 corners of being an entrepreneur. You know, by no means are these all the corners or everything for being an entrepreneur, but I just thought of maybe 4 things that are really helpful. And if you're in real estate, or you do own a restaurant, or you have a business, small business, whatever it is, I think this might help out. So, so let's just kind of jump into it. So the first thing is definitely to find a mentor, right? And preferably, if possible, someone who's done what it is that you've done. Exactly, and has and it's it's so true. But someone who's actually done what it is that you've done and accomplished, and has a vested interest in your success. You know, people find. I feel like we're in an age of mentors, and people's like, I mentor this, and I can mentor this, and that. But you know, I like to be mentored by people who have actually walked the walk, not just someone who got a stamp that said mentor. And you know, they can save time. So that whole trial and error thing, you know. Because you can learn by trial and error, or you can learn by someone else's successes and you can duplicate them, you know, and in business, it actually does save money, and more importantly, time. You know, and I always say this in business, that you can get back the money. You can always get back the money, but you can't necessarily get back the time. What happens if you make a wrong decision in business and you go 6 months down this direction, and then you figure out that it was the wrong decision, right? And so, having to actually backtrack and get the other way, sometimes people don't make it, you know? And so I think that's very, very important. When I was playing music, you know, I was actually self-taught as a musician, but then I started taking lessons, and in college, I got accepted in a music program, and I learned from a teacher, right? So I learned some things about what I was doing wrong that actually helped me move forward a little bit faster. But what I didn't necessarily learn from the teachers was actually to do things out to actually earn money as a professional musician, because they were teaching. I wanted to work with that. I had a chance to work with a manager, taught me some things there. I mentioned a father figure, a friend of mine, who's just blessed us with real estate and in the financial industry. You know, I can't tell you how much John has actually done for me since I've been here, you know, and just knowing those things, cutting off time. And so definitely that's the first thing. You know, some places might be in a position where they actually have to pay for a mentor. And, you know, if you have to pay for mentoring, it's worth it. You know, the biggest investment you can make is in yourself. But when you have somebody that has a vested interest, you know, they naturally win when you do. And it might not just be just from an income standpoint. Right? Maybe it is a family member who's been successful, and they want to pass on those success secrets to someone else. So, or someone just wants to make sure that their ideas don't die. So it doesn't necessarily have to be, you know, they just have a vested interest in you. So that's number one, right? Finding a mentor. Number two, and I really kind of understood this, you know, as I went through business, is to really build a team. Because I actually not only wanted to be an entrepreneur, I wanted to be a business owner. You know, because I have a very simple definition of what a business is. And John kind of talked about it, but the idea of a business is like, if this is the business, can you step away from the business and still make money? If you can't step away from the business and still make money, you're self-employed. I know we know a lot of people who, if you talk to them, they say, you know, it's my business and I'm a business owner. But when you look at it, when they step away, no money's coming in, they're self-employed. Right? And they're in that position where they own the job, which is fine, but you just have to understand in that if you want a lifestyle, you got to have the time and the money. Most people who have a lot of time on their hands don't have a lot of money. Most people who make a lot of money spend all their time doing it, but you got to have both. You got to have both for the lifestyle, right? So I thought about if I owned a restaurant, you know, if I was going to open a restaurant, I would need somebody who's the cook. and someone who's going to bust the tables, and someone who's going to greet the patrons when they come in, and someone who's going to manage, and someone's going to pour the drinks, right? And so you can't be all of those people. If I owned a store, maybe I'm in the store from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock in the morning, 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And then I go home to my family. Someone's in there from 12 to 6. Someone's in there from 6 to midnight. But from 8 a.m. to midnight, I'm getting paid on that store, right? And it sounds so simple, but we have to, I'm a simple person. I don't like to make things too complicated. So hopefully you guys are getting in. And also people who have strengths that are in places where maybe you don't, maybe they're good with people or good with numbers, or maybe they're good in the tech department. We're blessed to have a lot of very talented people in our team that do a bunch of different things. And some of them actually can do everything. But if you are doing everything, you can't efficiently do all of them. Does that make sense? And so you've got to be able to have other people work with you if you truly want to have a business, right? Because the business has to run when you're not there. And so, so that's the second thing. The third thing, and this is a fun thing that I really love to talk about, is to be the number one employee of your business. Most people, anytime that they get into business, you got to understand that you're self-employed when you start a business. It doesn't matter what it is that you do. I mean, even if somebody were to say purchase a McDonald's, like they have to learn some things about how to run the McDonald's at the beginning, right? And so in owning a business is, and I see that sometimes when people come into our industry because we want to help people create businesses and open up offices all over the country. And why do we do that? Because the chairs and the desks don't do the work in the offices. I'm in my office in Southern California. If someone's sitting in Hilo or sitting in Brooklyn or sitting in Buffalo or sitting in Cleveland, we need to have somebody else that can sit behind the desk and run the operations the way I'm doing here, because I live 7 minutes from my office here. Maybe somebody can live 7 minutes from the office there and do the same thing. But we have to understand that it's a privilege and not a right. So sometimes when people go into business, all of a sudden they think they're a business owner. That's not how it starts. And so another challenge that people have when they come to business is that they don't understand what it is like to run it. And so maybe some of you guys are aspiring to be business owners, maybe some are, but most people, you probably agree, come from a self or an employee background, right? Where they're used to working for someone else. And that's totally fine. But when you go from an employee to a business owner, that's a big jump. And we understand that that's a big jump. That's why it's so great to have some coaching and mentoring there. But a lot of people don't necessarily know how to make it. And so I have a little formula that I talk to our guys about because, and I think this is easy, is that say, hey, to be a business owner, you start as being self-employed, right? And so then some people would say, how many people are self-employed? Maybe there's a couple more people. I've got a real estate license. I do some taxes on the side, some things like that. So maybe some people understand about being self-employed, but then there's other people that don't. And so what is it to be self-employed? And I say this, to be self-employed is be the number one employee in your business. And so I think that's a concept that everybody can understand, right? Maybe they don't know how to be the business owner, but they understand what the number one employee is. And so let's take a look at it, right? If you're the number one employee of your business and you're supposed to start at 9 a.m., do you show up at 9 o'clock or 9:05? Or does the number one employee get there at like 8:30, 8:45 and is ready to rock at 9 a.m., right? If there's work that needs to be done that's outside of what it is that you're required to do they help out? Do they get those things done? Do they say something, if there's something on the floor, like I think about it from a restaurant standpoint, right? I'm walking by somebody else's table, but there's dirty dishes on the table. There's customers there. It's not my table, but I get it. I clean it up. I pick up trash, right? We have our rest. I'm in my office right now. Bathroom's down there. If I go into the bathroom and there's, paper towels on the floor, I pick them up, right? Because I think about it like, what if one of my clients were to go into the restroom, never mind all the other people that have offices here, but I want it to look good, because I want that name on it. If I have a restaurant, get this, and it closes at 9 o'clock, right? As an employee, maybe someone comes in to get some food and maybe the employees are like, we shut down the grill at 8:55. But maybe as the owner or the number one employee, it's like, look, let me make sure this guy gets some food at 9 o'clock, because we're not just looking at making another sale. We're looking at hopefully making another client for life. It's like, look, you made it here in time. I'll make sure you get some food. Maybe that's going to be a repeat client. Maybe they're going to tell their friends about, that people actually care here. Being the number one employee where you're working somewhere and other patrons come in and they say, I've just been watching you, but are you the owner of the place? Are you the proprietor? and you're like, not really. But, thanks for asking. And it's not because of what you say, it's because of what you do. And I think that that's a big thing. Would you hire you? A lot of times in business, if somebody, at 9 a.m., if you were to go to your job and you're supposed to be there at 9 a.m. and you show up at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, what might happen? You might get written up. You might get let go. But then people get into business for themselves. They're like, man, I got to get up. I got to make phone calls in the morning. I got to get after it. I need to be in the office at 9 o'clock. They show up at 11, but no one calls, right? What about the dress code? People like, they show up and they say, hey, this is what I do, or dress code. We're in the financial industry, so probably suit and ties make more sense. If we were in Seattle, we'd have to dress it down. If I was in New York, we'd probably have to dress it up. But that's just kind of the industry, right? And so you have to look at those things. Another big thing in business as far as being the number one employee is know what your shifts are. If you say, hey, I'm running a part-time business, I work in the daytime, I've got this part-time business at night, I'm doing it from 6 to 9 on Wednesdays and Thursdays. If you were working at a Starbucks from 6 to 9 on Wednesdays and Thursdays, and you go to work and there's no a patron in the Starbucks at like 7 o'clock or 7:30, do you just shut the doors? Right? You're like, well, I was supposed to work 6 to 9, but there's no one in here, so we'll go ahead and shut it down early at 7 o'clock. But I see that with people who are getting into business. They don't have their time set up. They're thinking about it not as an employee. They said, hey, as an employee, this is my shift, right? Where maybe somebody has an appointment, the appointment cancels or postpones, but they said they're going to be doing some work from 6 to 9. So, hey, you're on the clock. So at the end of the day, the question is that would you hire you? Okay, and so that's a third thing. I get a lot more into detail, but I think you guys kind of get the picture on that. But it's proven to be very helpful for me, at least. And then the last thing, obviously, is to have a business plan. You got to know where you're going. You want to have focus. John mentioned about the law of attraction or the law of vibration and really being attracted to things in their life. And that's a whole nother thing. And I'm a firm believer in that. I love that stuff. I love Think and Grow Rich. I try to inundate my mind with that stuff because I believe that it works. But having a business plan, first of all, is that you don't have a business if you don't have a plan. And the plan is not a plan unless it's written down on paper. And so when we think about it, and not only do you have to have the plan, but you got to read it, and that's another thing that I learned here. A lot of these concepts, pretty much all these concepts I learned here. And that's what I love about it, because it doesn't just teach me about working in the financial industry. It teaches me about doing business. I can't imagine what would happen in some of the other ventures that I've done if I knew that information then, but it's focus, right? Because we live in the most distracted time in the history of the world. I mean, we got phones going off and tablets going off and text and tweets and, Facebook and Instagram and just always stuff going off, right? Most distracted time in the world. So I believe that the people who are going to be most successful, the people that just are able to stay focused, and stay away from distractions. If you can stay focused on the things that you need to do to get things done, I think things are going to move faster. And so one of the ways to do that is to actually read the business plan. Instead of John said, don't listen to the television and the radio. There's always ulterior motives. There's always ulterior subjections. There's always, stress and anxiety and conflict sells. And so we have to understand that. But if we're able to, in the morning and then at night, we look at our business plan, it reminds us what it is that we're supposed to do. I think that most people, quite honestly, if they already know what they need to do. It's in business, or if I ask somebody like, what do you need to do to lose weight? Maybe I should cut out the late night snacks, right? Maybe I should cut back on the soda. Maybe I shouldn't eat so many burgers. Like most people kind of know, right? But there's a thing is that they forget or they get sidetracked. And if they forget, it's just because they're getting distracted by a bunch of other things. And that's what a business plan does, is it allows you to say, hey, let me remind myself what it is that I need to do in the morning, and then remind myself at night before I go to bed. So then the subconscious works on that at night. So then you start working on it in a way that then now you're working on your stuff 24 hours a day. The other thing is that they're not motivated. And the motivated part is something about, I look at the motivation as, what you guys have probably heard and a lot of people talk about is knowing their why, like knowing what the reason is that really drives somebody. Because you got to have that internal motivation. You got to have that thing that gets you out of bed in the morning, and people say, hey, you got to know your why. If you really want to be successful in life, you got to know your why. And I believe that, but I actually believe that most people do know what motivates them. Maybe if you're a parent and it's your kids, or maybe it's your parents, or maybe someone else in your life that's done something for you. And maybe there's people in your life that they wanted to prove that you couldn't do it and you want to prove them wrong. Or maybe there's someone that believed in you and you want to prove them right. But whatever it is, and those things change, and there's a lot of them, and the more that you know, the better that it is for you. But I feel like that's the case, because we all get angry, right? If something happens, then it's, there's certain things that happen and we all of a sudden have all this emotion, right? And if something happens, you all of a sudden have all this emotion, maybe you hit a thread on something that can actually be used to your advantage. So it exists, okay? It exists. But here's the thing. Again, we forget, or we're sidetracked. We don't remind ourselves every day that when I look at it, it's like, look, I want my kids to have a better chance than I did. I know that my dad, he graduated high school in 1964, college in 1968. He was the first Black to graduate his college. What he had to go through, he grew up in the capital of the South, in Richmond, Virginia. People quit the college that he worked at, right? They used to lynch dummies out in front of his house, in front of his dorm, okay? 50 plus years later, he sits on the board, right? He's had a storied career. That's what he did. That's not what I did. But I had a chance to see through all of this effort and through all this uphill battles, the things that he did and the grace that he had through it, and to give us a better chance than he had. And so I want to make sure, I can't really, like, he's retired. They're okay. They have some health issues, but what I can't do is I can't pay him back. But what I can do is in the next generation in our family, I can say, look, he rode us up to get to this point on the hill. I can help move my family farther. Right? I can do that for the next generation, right? He ran the flag up this hill. The least I can do for my dad is grab the flag and then run as far as I can, right? As a tribute to him. That gets me, that fires me up, right? Like to where you don't believe, but if I don't remind myself about that, I don't have that energy. I don't have that passion. I don't have that kick in the butt that we really need if we're going to be working for ourselves. I don't have that motivation. And so that emotion that sometimes people suppress, I'm telling you, is that when you have a business plan and that's in there, so it reminds me that kicks me in the butt, it gets me up in the morning and it gets me moving. So I have to remind myself, and that's what a business plan does. Not only is just the strategies and all those things, but it also reminds you what you need to do, which we already know, and it also reminds us why we need to do it. And if you have those things, you might not have as many challenges getting yourself motivated. And I love this quote. I'm not sure who actually developed it, but it says, people aren't lazy. And I don't believe this. They're just uninspired, because there's something that flips the switch on people, and if you could spend a little bit of time knowing what it is, but I believe that most people out there actually know what it is. They're just not using it in a way that actually helps move them forward. So those are just a couple of tips there. That I want to go through, and hopefully some of this stuff helps. So I want to bring back up John and see if there's maybe anything else that you want me to cover. But it's a pleasure spending some time with you guys today, and I'm just excited. It's a great year. It's 2020. It still has the opportunity to be the best year on the planet. It's just a matter of what you make of it.
Awesome, man. Well, there you go, guys. Let's give a big round of applause. Come on, hands up. There we go. All right, let's do some Q&A. So, sure. Chris, I got a question for you, man.
Yes, sir.
So you now have your sales force with you. You got your team. You're sitting around, and what do you tell your people? Like right now during COVID-19, how do you inspire your people? What do you tell them? How do you challenge them? What are you saying right now as people are like, oh my God, I just want to take a leave of absence because of COVID-19. I want to just check out. I don't want to do this. What are you doing to say to your sales force? Does that make sense, my question?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think that's a big thing. So one is that I try as best I can to know really what someone's goals are. And just like with the business plan, I try to help remind them. It's one of those things about even if times are down, I think this part of that book, The Odyssey, if you go through hell, you've got to the best thing to do is to keep moving. So even if times are bad, that's the worst time to stop. Does that make sense? You've got to keep moving, because it's like stop over there. Like if you're like this underwater at least like wait till you get over there on the edge to stop. Don't stop right here. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is that, we're blessed as far as being in this business that, when times are good, we do well. When times are bad, we actually do very well because of some of the things and concepts that we teach, because everybody needs to have this stuff. Everybody needs to know about financial literacy. California is the 5th largest country in the world. It could be the 5th largest economy in the world, but most people here are paycheck to paycheck. Having some protections in college, all those things that you talked about, those are important, but they're in the important but not urgent column. And what we saw is that, we have a society that saves somewhere, what negative 1% is like the average, but in the United States, but savings is up right now. People are, whatever money they're coming in, they're like, man, I got to make sure I save for a rainy day. So these concepts, they're realizing that they need them, but that's what I try to do. I try to hold the mirror, and then I talk about momentum. Momentum's a funny thing. One of the fastest ways to get momentum at any time in your life is just to say the words, I have momentum. So I talk a lot about momentum. We have plenty of momentum, tons of them. John, we got plenty of momentum.
Yeah. Well, then let me ask you another question. There are some other questions, but how do you create momentum? Like, what do you do now to create momentum in your business? So one is you say it, man, I've got momentum, baby. Let's go, right? And then what else do you do? Like, how do you get your teammates to believe you have momentum?
Well, I think that in human beings, we're very much a monkey see, monkey do. So, we say is that I want to try, and I don't always do the best job of it, but I try to be an example, and people think in business that it's the home runs that really make things happen. And this reality TV, and you're watching somebody and they go to this crazy place, have this expensive meal, make this big deal. And that's actually how business works. But what I found is that most successful people in business, it's the mundane things. It's the little things. It's not the big things. It's the little things. If you watch baseball, we love to see a home run, but it's the base hits that make things happen. It's the base hits that win a game, And so for us, I need to be making phone calls. I need to be doing some prospecting. I've got to make some calls. I've got to have some appointments. I've got to do some follow-up. I've got to read my business plan. I've got to do those things. And if I just focus on those things and get them done every day, just the little things, then the momentum automatically happens. I have to know what those little pieces are. It's not a lot. It's little, but as easy as it is to do, John, it's easy not to do. And it's the consistency of doing all of those little things. Every business has them. Most people know what they are. They just don't do them consistently.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, great. I got a question here from Jen Almiron. Jen says, how do you find and train good people on your team? And then, to piggyback that question is, and then how do you inspire them to be the number one employee?
You inspire them to be the number one employee by you being the number one employee. I believe that, there's so many things outside of, take COVID, for instance, it's something that we didn't I didn't create it, right? There's a lot of things that happen with it that are outside of my control. But if I focus on the things that are outside of my control, like people, right? Like people and what they do, then I have no control, but I can control what I do myself. And what I found is that we don't attract what we want in life. We attract who we are. And so if we want to have better people in business, in our community, in our relationships, it's like, if we want a better relationship, what are we doing? What are we bringing to that relationship to have a better relationship? If we want to attract better people in business, what are we doing that's making ourselves better in business? And that's what happens. I believe is that we attract who we are. So as we find is that as we get better, and it's that work on ourselves, and I mean, I know you probably agree with that, but as we work on ourselves, we start attracting some of those other people who are maybe of a higher identity, who actually want to do something. And in the meantime, we love on people, and try and focus on, focus on their strengths. Most people, we're like, if you ask somebody what's wrong with somebody, we're like a sniper, John. We're like, boom, no problem. Line up 4 people, kill shots, right? But then you ask somebody to say something good about somebody, and sometimes we fumble with that. So I'd say look for the gifts in your people too, because that person actually could be there. They just need somebody to believe in them.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Hey, Jen asked also, how do you find good people?
I talk to a lot of people, you know, and I believe in going through quality for quantity, and so, and I think that's a big thing because you're going to attract and you're going to find a lot more of what is it you're looking for when you go through a lot more people. Like think of Star Search, right? Think of the people that win a Star Search. How many millions of people to get to that one, I played music, right? And so I love the Beatles. I love a lot of different bands, but I love the Beatles. Do you know how much music the Beatles wrote? So much music, right? Prince, he died much before his time. That guy wrote so much music. It's no wonder why he had so many good hits, because he had so much to choose from. Does that make sense? If your sample size is 3 or 4 and you expect to hit bat 1,000, talking to 3 or 4 people, that's not the case. You might only need 3 or 4 or 5 good people to really get your business off the ground, but it's going to take some time to go through people to find those good people.
Yeah, yeah. And then I want to add to that, Jen, a lot of us, we may not have a big circle, right? Some of us may have a very limited number of people we've got in our contacts. So you might have on your phone, I don't know, let's say 400 names, but then you sit there and you think, do you call those 400 people like daily, right? I think most of you guys maybe have 5 or 10 names of people that you call daily, regularly, and it may change depending on the time or the season or the year of your life. But I want you to know, Jen and everyone else, to write this down right now. And I want you to write down the word STEAM, STEAM. And I want you to write that down like horizontally, because I want you guys to write stuff next to it, because it's an acronym, okay? So the letter S stands for sales, okay? Sales. And then the letter T, okay, so you got team, okay, is someone who's a teacher, okay? And then E is somebody who's energetic or enthusiastic, okay? And then the letter A is, there's different versions of A. Someone who's, they call them A-type personalities, right? Or somebody who's ambitious, all right, that's A. And then M stands for money, someone who's money motivated. So right now, Jen, there's so many people that I don't know, but I know someone who knows, somebody who's really good in sales, TEAM. So what I want to do is I want to call the few 5 or 10 friends that I do talk to on a daily basis and say, hey, do you know anybody? I need like 3 really good salespeople. Do you know any? And then they'll say, yeah, let me refer you to 3 really good salespeople. They can sell ice to Eskimos, right? You guys, it's no different than, let me just tell you something. I'm actually doing some work in my house right now, okay? I'm actually putting up a few walls in my house. There's a couple of rooms that are like super big, and it just kind of seems senseless to have one big room, so we're actually putting up a wall. So I basically called few friends that I have, right? And I mean, look, there's hey, look, if you can count 5 friends on the palm of your hand, on one hand, and they're like friends, you're one of the luckiest people on the face of this planet, because most people can't say they got 5 what? Friends, okay? Very rare. Friends will do anything for you. Like a friend is someone that you can call at the middle of a night, doesn't matter where you are, and they'll come and get you and help you out, okay? Like, let me just tell you, I was actually driving back last night from Vegas, okay? I was driving back from Vegas, and I don't know, all of a sudden, and I was towing my boat, everyone, okay? And I was coming down the backside of the 14, right? So I'm coming down, because I'm coming from Vegas, and it had me go through the 58, right? The backside, coming down the backside of the 14. and my truck with my boat started shaking like this, and I was like losing control of my vehicle, and I pull over, and we get out of my car, and I'm missing some lug nuts off of my tire. And so we pull over off of, I think it was Avenue L, okay? And we pull into an auto zone, and I pull into this auto zone to see if I can buy some lug nuts. And so I was actually talking to a friend who's happened to be, I think, on here now. Her name is Catherine Simnowski, and she says, "Where are you?" She's like, "Well, that's not a nice area." She says, "Let me see if I can call a bunch of places and see if I can get you some lug nuts." So guess what? The first place I went to was called O'Reilly's, and they didn't have any. So Catherine calls a bunch of other places while I was talking to her on the phone. So now that's a true friend, right? I mean, here she is. She wants to go to a dangerous area in the middle of the night. It was like 9:45. They're about to close at 10 o'clock or whatever, or maybe it was 8:45 closing at night. And it wasn't the nicest areas, to be honest with you. And she went and bought lug nuts for me. Her and her husband went to the store, bought lug nuts, and drove out to no man's land where I was on the side of the road, and she was going to drop them off for me, right? And I didn't ask her to do that. She just did it as a friend. Does that make sense? So that's what I mean by like a true friend, right? Like I called Chris. I'm like, "Chris, I need you, brother, on my podcast show, bro." And he's like, "John," in a heartbeat. He didn't say, "Well, what am I going to get paid? Are you going to buy me a steak and lobster dinner?" I don't know. Maybe he will after this. But see, that's a real friend. So I could say I have more than just a handful, and I'm just honestly like the blessed guy, most blessed guy on the face of this planet, that I have that many people I can turn to. But I don't have a problem calling somebody and say, "Hey, can you refer me 3 people that can come and give me an estimate to put up a wall in my house?" And guess what? They all was like, yeah. Call Jose, call Eduardo, call Steve, call Mike. You know, they're giving me all these names, and I called, and today they were in my house putting up a new wall. You see, that's no different than saying, "Hey, do you know like 3 or 4 really good teachers? I need some teachers. You know anybody who's really money motivated? I need like 5 people." And you'd be surprised how people are just so generous to give names of people that they know. So be comfortable. Remember, one of the things I asked and said in one of my prior podcasts is I said, "Ask without fear." And that's what I mean. You ask without fear, because all of a sudden, boom, they give you a name and you call up that person, and that person can be your next Chris Payne, right? And so that's what I'm talking about here. So I hope that helped you, Jen. That's a great question. Next one is, Chris, what is your, thank you so much for your golden nuggets. What is the latest book you read, and what would you recommend?
The latest book, actually, it's the book that I'm reading a book called Sovereignty right now. I cannot think of the author, but it's this guy. He has a podcast, and he just talks about some things about being comfortable as a man and having sovereignty over yourself. I just finished a book. Actually, I got to look right now because the name, for some reason, it escapes me. But I've read it a couple of times, and I just read it again.
Okay,
it's from Norman Vincent Peale.
Okay.
It's like the power. No, that's. I can't think of the name of that book. But I would say this: the best thing to do if you're looking for a good book to read is really to find out, maybe what it is that you want to work on yourself, and then maybe ask a more pointed question on that. It's like, "Hey, do you know of any books that are good for this?"
Yeah.
I always read 177 Mental Toughness Secrets. That's always a great one too.
Yeah.
First things first. Some great books out there, but that's what I would say.
Yeah, good. All right. Well, let's do a 30-second response to these next 6 questions. There's 12. They're popping up like crazy.
Right.
Here we go. Do you change your business plan? If so, how often?
Oh, tons. I might change one word on my business plan because it makes me more excited.
Okay.
The core is the same, but I do things a little bit because if I'm not motivated, then the business plan's not working. So.
Okay. What do you do to focus on your business when you have distractions?
Uh, That's discipline. I remind myself, it's the thing, it's go back to business. I remind myself what I'm doing it for. There's always going to be distractions. This the difference between people who are successful, people who aren't successful, is that the people who are successful do it anyway. And so I just remind myself why I'm doing it, and I think that also comes back to the business plan.
Okay. Next one, this is from Guillermo Aguilar. He says, hello, Chris. I've been working in the restaurant industry. I'm about 24 years of age. I used to be a motivated person, but right now, man, I'm feeling stuck on everything. I want to change my mindset, my life, my routine. What would you recommend that I need to do right now to get back to my motivation?
Get back to your motivation. Well, you know what I would do? It just kind of go somewhere and spend some time thinking about actually what you want out of life. People think that, the lack of motivation gets a lack of doing the daily things, but that's process. You've got to go past the process and look at the goals. What is it that you want out of life? What actually gets you excited? But you have to ask those questions. We have, as human beings, we're the only creature on the planet that has the ability to create our future. We can think about what we want and actually create it. But most people spend no time thinking about what it is in their future. I would say that you probably there's nothing in the future that you really get excited about. It's because you haven't spent enough time thinking about what you want in your future that would make you excited. So I would say cut out some time and really think about that,
Yeah. And I want to add to that, Guillermo. Here's what I want you to do. I'm going to give you a quick assignment, okay? Guillermo, and to everyone else, because there's a lot of you that are probably in the same boat Guillermo is right now, okay, is this. Number one is I want you to write down the 10 things that are tangible that you want, the 10 tangible things that you want, right? Like materialistic things, right? Like a car, a house, whatever it is, 10 things that you want, okay? And then I want you to write down 10 intangible things, okay? Things that you can't touch. So, peace of mind, whatever it is. And Guillermo, you got my phone number. I want you to text it to me tonight before you go to bed. I don't know where you're at, Guillermo, but I want you to hit me up with your top 10 tangible things and top 10 non-tangible things, okay? And let's focus on that. I want all of you guys to do that, okay? And email me as well, all right? Yeah, because all of you guys, listen, man, nothing is going to motivate you unless you start to know exactly what it is you want. So you can't hit a target that you don't see or don't have. Right? I mean, think about that. What if I took you out to a firing range with a gun? I said, shoot that target. And you're like, what target? Well, there isn't any. And you're going to go, well, what am I supposed to shoot? Right? Well, nothing, right? Just shoot it into the mountain. I mean, that's a waste of ammo, right? I mean, so you got to know what your target is in order for you to hit it. So if you don't even know what your target is, I can't help you, man. Okay? That's what I want all of you guys to know. That's got to be your inspiration. That's like your calling, your purpose, your desire, your motivation right there. Okay, this comes from Alan, A-L-O-N, right, from Texas, Azaris, right? Even as a musician, you always had a business mindset and almost got involved in real estate. How did you make that transition from music to financial industry?
Great question. So I had no idea 10 years ago, 7 years ago, that I would be sitting on a computer with Sir John Shin in a suit talking from a financial perspective. Never in a million years. But I will say this, much to John's point, I wanted to have a business that I could call my own. I love the idea of working with a team. I've never been like a musician as an individual. I always worked in bands because I liked working with people. I like the idea of residual income, which is what I found from real estate. I love the idea of having a business, watching the owner of the restaurant. We'd be in there at 8 on a Saturday night. He'd shake some hands, kiss some babies. He'd go home at 8:30. This guy walked out of there at 2:30 a.m. Both of us were getting paid. One of us was getting paid more than the other. Does that make sense? And so I realized that, I love the guy to death, but there's a difference between being an owner and employee. So I knew I wanted some of those pieces, but I also knew that there's this overhead with food, and just all these costs. So I didn't know that it was this, right? But I did know that I wanted help from a financial standpoint. And over time, I saw from a business standpoint what was possible here. And that's what I fell in love with. And then the fact that we actually get to help people. I like helping people, helping people get out of it, like being there and with some very important times from a financial standpoint. No, money's not everything, but it's the number one cause of divorce. It's one of the top 3 causes of suicide. So it's kind of important. How can a family plan the next 10 years if they're stressed about the next 10 days? So that's a good feeling. Doing for others is something that is a human experience. I didn't know that all of those things came here with this. So I got lucky. That's what I would say. I got lucky.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. All right. This comes from Frank Aragon. Don't you love that last name?
That's hot.
Aragon. It's like, sounds like some knight, some medieval, knight, of one of the great kings. All right, here we go. Frank says, what social media platform works the best in finding your best clients and teammates?
That is probably, to be very honest with you, a question that probably is better suited for someone who spends a lot of time on social media. I will say this, is that on social media, the things that I do post, and I definitely could post more, are me. And it's about the things that I care about, and I don't try to be somebody that I'm not. And so when I do actually get hit up on social media, because I actually do, it's something that's genuine. It's not like, oh, they came into me in social media, so I got to be that guy. It's not about that, But I feel like I'm blessed. We're having some successes in life, and we're just kind of a little snapshot of where we're at and what we care about and what matters most. That being said, I've gotten the most feedback probably from Instagram and Facebook, and it's not because I poured my heart out in them. But again, that might be a better question for somebody else who spends a lot more time on social media.
Yeah. Okay, great. Let's see here. John, great training. Okay, I guess this is a question for me. John, thank you. Great training. How can you focus when you have 2 businesses? That's the question. That's really a good question. So here's what I guess that comes from Adnan Yilmaz. So Adnan, I sorry if I'm chopping up your name there, but so you know what? Here's how I would approach this. Number 1 is this. I want to make sure that whatever business I'm doing has residual and passive income. So I'm not sure what your 2 businesses are, but maybe one business is something you need right now because you're starting, you're launching your other one, but the first business doesn't have a whole lot of passive or residual income. So you got to start looking at creating systems, right? So that you can actually have the systems run your business rather than you running the business, okay? So when people say to me, they go, John, how do you run so many companies or businesses simultaneously? It's not because I've got people running it, I've got systems running it, right? And so this is why it's important for you to start adopting systems for your business. Like right now, I can't even tell you how many sales we did today, but I would tell you it would be probably over 150 sales today, right? But out of the 150 sales, how many of those did I do today? And the answer is 0, right? Because I've got systems in place. And so that's why we talk about passive and residual income. But Adnan, I would say that would be a question if I knew exactly what your businesses are or were, so I can give you more concrete, and you can always call me and we can schedule a quick 10-minute call. And then I can give you some more direction. But, if you start looking at, hey, you got to start shifting into where you're going to spend more of your time into passive and residual income, everyone. Okay. God, there's so many more questions. They're just popping up. They love you, Chris. It's fantastic. My God. All right. So here's the thing, guys. We are totally out of time right now. And so real quickly, I just want you guys to all know that this is Chris Payne. Please follow him on Instagram, wherever you got to go. And Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. You're awesome, brother, and appreciate all the content you shared. You guys give him a big, hands up down below. Give him a big applaud. He came in here to drop some nuggets for you guys, all right? Okay, guys, just a few more slides for me on my end. Let me just tell you, if you're ready to make some passive or residual income, please give me a call or get with the person who invited you here today. I want to do a special giveaway. Listen up, folks, special giveaway. Here's what I want to give away. I want to give away a movie. I want to give away a book, my book on how rich Asians think, and I want to give away $100. Okay, who wants to get $100 Ben Franklin from me? Raise your hand if you're interested. Who wants $100? Okay, I'm going to just Venmo it to you. Okay, but here's what you got to do. Here's how we're going to do this. Special giveaway. Here it is. Here are the rules. Number one is this. If you go to my social media right now on my Facebook or my Instagram, there is a poster there, a flyer for next Tuesday's meeting with a guy named Dan Charlier, the one and only, okay? Now, what I want you to do is I want you to take that, I want you to repost it, and then I want you to tag me. You got to make sure that you tag me at John Shin Official, okay? So you got to post a flyer for next week, Tuesday's talk, on your social media and tag me, okay? So that's number one. Number two is you got to get 3 people to sign up, okay? Dial in and stay for the entire meeting next week. And by the way, we have a system here, like our software and everything on Zoom will actually track when people come on and how long they stayed on and when they drop off. We get the full report, okay, on next week, Tuesday talk. And then what I want you to do is get your 3 guests to register at this link. They have to register at John Shin Tuesday Talks. And then what we're going to do is everyone who hits these 3 things right here, we're going to put your name into a bucket or a hat or whatever it is, and we're going to pull out your name next week, and we'll see who the winner is, where I'm going to send you a copy of the movie, a copy of the book, and a the real thing. You're going to get a real $100 Ben Franklin, okay? That's real simple. I mean, it's, this could take you just a few seconds to do all this stuff, all right? And there you have it. I also want to make sure that you know where to go. When you go to Bitly, this is where they're going to put in your name. So whoever you get to sign up, you just got to tell them, put your name in here, otherwise you won't get credit, okay? Your name's got to go in there, and you got to have at least 3. And then everyone with the 3 or more guests will be put into a raffle. There'll be a random drawing next week on Tuesday to find out who the winner of the special giveaway is. So I want to wish everybody a good luck there. And then if you're not watching next Tuesday Talks and your name is called as a winner, you will be disqualified, and we're going to pull out the next name, okay? All right. Oh, yeah. All right, here we go. So listen, folks, if you joined us here for the very first time, do you ever wonder why people are poor? Let me tell you why they're poor. Because poor stands for passing over opportunities repeatedly, okay? So don't pass up this opportunity. Next week, we have a very special guest named Dan Charlier. And I want you to know that time is not running out, but your life is. Now's the time to act on your dreams. Let's go do this thing together, you guys, in a big way. And I want you to know, I want to just say happy birthday to some of these amazing people. Today, August 18th, Maretes Martinez, it's their birthday. If you know who they are, shoot them a text. They would love to hear from you, I'm sure. Who doesn't want to hear a happy birthday text, right? Happy birthday to Maretes. Angelica De Villa, okay, happy birthday to you. A lot of birthdays today. And then, let's see, this coming Thursday, August 20th, Scott Frank, happy birthday to you. And then Shy Gold, both of you guys born on the same day. Happy birthday to Shy. And then we have Jessica McGrath Gomez, also on Thursday, August 20th. And we've got a guy by the name of Ace, August 22nd. Happy birthday this coming Saturday. And finally, just so you guys know, on my staff, Anna Trinidad, right? It is her birthday today. And so right after this, we are going to go outside and have a little festive barbecue for Anna's birthday. So listen, just want you guys to know this coming Thursday in 2 days, please register for the nationwide product training. If you want to learn more about some of their products, They've got great products. I want you to learn all about it. It's coming this Thursday for 1 hour only. Register below. Let other people know. We look forward to seeing you then. And then this coming Saturday, I've got my Shin-tastic Saturday podcast. So don't miss out on that either. And again, as I said, next week on Tuesday, Dan Charlier. What an inspiring story, Mr. Charlier. All right, guys, listen, you guys are awesome. Thanks for joining us here tonight. Have yourself a fantastic week. Another great Tuesday talk with Chris Payne. Hey, you guys, take care. Be safe. Wear your mask and social distance. God bless everyone. Thank you for joining us. Take care now.